In section 8.1, we're going to be looking at what makes triangles congruent. And so another word for congruent is equal. It means the two triangles are the same size. If two triangles are congruent to each other, it means that 6 things about them have to be true. And so when you're trying to see if the two triangles are congruent, you're going to try to figure out, are the 3 sides equal to the 3 sides in the other triangle? But you're also going to figure out, are the 3 angles equal to the 3 angles that are in the second triangle? And so looking at this picture here, you have 2 triangles. They're both right triangles. You see the box in the corner. Let's see. So side GH matches up with side KL. Those are both 1.7. Side JH matches up with side ML. So those are both 1. And then side GJ matches up with side KM. Those are both 2. And so all 3 of the pairs of sides match up, 1, 2, 3. And then you check the angles. So G and K are both 30 degrees. J and M are both 60 degrees. And lastly, H and L are both 90 degrees. And so you can conclude that the triangles are congruent because all of their corresponding parts are congruent. If we wanted to write the congruent statements for this triangle, it's important that you're careful because you have to put the letters in the right order. And so I'll do that right here underneath. So if I call the first triangle JHG, it actually doesn't matter what order I put the first 3 letters in, but when I do the second 3, this part's where it's going to matter. So I put the J first, that was a 60-degree angle, which means in this triangle the M has to go first, and then I put the H second, so that was the 90-degree angle, so that means L has to go second, and then I put the G last, the 30-degree angle, so that means that K has to go last over here. So the order that you put the letters in matters. In example number 2, the 2 triangles are congruent to each other because the sides match up 1, 2, 3, and then the angles match up the same 1, 2, 3. So you can conclude that the triangles are congruent to each other. These 3 pairs of sides are all the same. These 3 pairs of angles are all the same. Remember, when you make the congruent statement for the triangle, it doesn't matter what order B, D, F. It doesn't matter what order you put the first 3 in, but then based on the order from the first 3, you have to be careful with the order that you write the last 3 down. So B was first, so that means K goes first. D means that C goes next, and then F means that A goes last. So you might want to make a note here that order matters on the second triangle. On number 3, we don't need to have the picture to help us make the congruent statement and fill this out. The order of the letters matters because G goes with F, E goes with U, and O goes with N. G goes with F, E goes with U, and O goes with N. And for the sides, it's the same way. So side GE, G is the first letter, E is the second letter. So that has to go with this side in the second triangle. And then in the first angle, side EO would have to match up with side UN. And then side GO, so G is the first letter, O is the last letter, would have to go with side FN. A picture could help you with this one, but it's not necessary. In question number 4, you're given all of the congruent statements, and they want us to just mark them on the picture. I'll do this in a different color. So side CA matches up with side DG. See how I'm being careful with the letters, making sure I put the marks on the right sides of the triangle. Side TA, this one needs 2 markings, goes with side OD. And then side TC, I'll give this one 3, goes with side OG. And then when you mark the angles, there's a couple different ways you can make the markings, but I'll just do the most common way. So angle A goes with angle D. Angle C, I'll give this one 2, goes with angle G. And then last but not least, angle T goes with angle O. And so that completes the example. It asks us to name the congruent triangles. So let's see. I'll do triangle ACT is congruent to, and remember the order of these letters don't matter, it's just the order of the next letters. So A was 1, so that means D goes first because A goes with D. C goes with G, and T goes with O. And so this is the congruent statement that says that the two triangles are congruent, and it puts the letters in the correct order. If two triangles are congruent to each other, then we can solve equations for the missing parts. In example A, we were trying to solve for the missing value of x over here for this side, this vertical side. So this side's 9, this side's 9, this angle's 30, this angle's 30. So I can set these two sides equal to each other to solve for x, and then I can plug it into both pieces. On example B, it's going to be similar except for solving for the angle. This side's 13.5, this side's 12. That means that the angle in between them would have to be the same thing. So for this one, I'll say 2x plus 14 is equal to 4x, and then I'll go ahead and solve that for x. Solving for x will give me x equals 7, and then I can plug it into the two angles to see how big the angles are. So let's see, the measure of angle C, if I plug the x in up here, I'll do 2 times 7 plus 14, which will give me 14 plus 14. So that'll give me 28 degrees for the measure of angle C. I should copy that down. And then I'll plug it into F as well. So the measure of angle F is 4 times 7. So for the measure of angle F, I also get 28 degrees. It's important that you get the same thing for both of them. When you plug it in and when you get the same answer for both of them, that's how you know that you did this part correctly, and x equals 7 is the correct answer to that question. Whenever you have a picture that includes more than one triangle, sometimes there's extra information that you need to mark besides what's given to you. A couple things. Bisects means it cuts it in half. So if side DJ bisects side AK, that means side AK gets cut in half. If x is the midpoint of side DJ, that would mean that from here to here was the same thing as from here to here, so those two would be congruent to each other. These angles that are given to you as being congruent can also be marked. And this side AD is congruent to this side JK. And then I have something here that says vertical angles. Remember that vertical angles are always congruent to each other. So you see how this problem has these two angles that are opposite from each other? Even though these two angles weren't listed as being congruent in the given information, you can mark them as being congruent to one another. So based off of that, I have all the information that I need to conclude that triangle ADX is congruent to triangle KJX, because all 6 pieces of this one are congruent to all 6 pieces of this one. Moving on to B. The first thing says that side BD is the angle bisector of angle ABC. Remember, bisector means that it cuts it in half. And so on the picture, that means that this piece of the angle is going to be equal to this piece of the angle, because BD cuts angle ABC in half. This symbol right here means it's perpendicular to, and remember, perpendicular means that they intersect to form 90-degree angles. So if side BD is perpendicular to side AC, that would mean that both of these are 90-degree angles. D is the midpoint of side AC, so that means that these two pieces are equal to each other. Let's see, AB is the same as BC, or CB. Angle A is the same as angle C, and so you almost have enough, but then look at right here. You see how this side of this triangle is the same as this side of this triangle. It's like the side is shared. That's the reflexive property at work. Where can I mark that? I'll mark it over here. So that's the reflexive property that says that the shared side is the same on both triangles, and because of that, you know that all 6 of these things are congruent to all 6 of these things. So we can say that the two triangles are congruent. Triangle ABD is congruent to triangle CBD. And so that's the statement that says that the two triangles are congruent to each other, because you have enough information to prove that. Remember, the order of the second triangle does matter. The last example in the notes for today is just having us practice noticing when vertical angles are involved or the reflexive property is involved. Remember, the reflexive property is when they share a side, and then vertical angles is it's when they make an X. It's when there's two angles that are across from each other. So in the first example, there's two triangles. It's missing the 3 markings here that you would prove by the reflexive property. On the second triangle, or on the second picture, on the second example, See how these two triangles, they touch right here on this vertex, on this point, but it kind of looks like they make an X with each other. That would mean that this angle right here was congruent to this angle right here. And so these are vertical angles, and they're always going to be congruent to each other. And then in the last picture, these two triangles share a side. And so you could add this marking onto the picture. And again, this is the reflexive property that lets you say that that side of that triangle is congruent. This side of this triangle is congruent to this side in this triangle. And so again, because they share a side, it means that this side is congruent in both of the pictures. These kinds of things are helping us get ready to do proofs, which we'll start later in Unit 8.